Yo, what's good, guys? We are back at it again with another MLB The Show 25 video for you guys. And today we have one of the more popular uploads on the channel all the time. It is the hitting video. So if your hitting is not where you want it to be, or if you are new to the franchise, this is the spot to be. And if this does help you, I'd urge you to like and subscribe because we're going to have more tip videos. We're going to have Diamond Dynasty focus videos. If you don't know what cards are good, what modes to play, stuff like that, this is the spot to be. So real quick, before we get into it, I do want to, throw some qualifications. Made top 50 in the past, been the highest ranked co-op player in the past, walked to World Series, more or less can make 1,000 every single season with relative ease. So just not to brag, but just kind of give some qualifications, I know what I'm talking about, even though I may not hit great in this video because I don't talk and hit super great, but just kind of showing off some qualifications. And let's get into settings. So this is what y'all came for probably. Zone is where you need to be. You don't want to be unidirectional. It's only going to take you so far. It's just not going to be good. Anchor, I could see an argument for anchoring, especially lefty-lefty if you want to turn it on. Me personally, not something I've ever really done. PCI should be on. If you're watching this video, it should be on for sure. Some people like theirs off, but in general, you want it to be on. PCI center, you got a lot of good options here. You got bat, diamonds, circles. It's really up to you. Even when I'm using the bat, most of the time I'm just looking at the circle in the middle of it. So it's a good way to think about it. If you're running bat, I wouldn't have any of this other stuff on. If you're running like circles or diamonds, you can run wedge, you can run basic. It's really up to you. Color, white's cool. Yellow's all right. And cyan, you'll see some people run cyan. So those are the three primary colors, but really it's just personal preference. Opacity, I've seen great players play on 20. I've seen great players play on 90. It's really up to you. Probably wouldn't go 100, but that's just me. Difficulty wise, will be on all-star for this. Strike zone hitting is where you need to be. It doesn't really matter which one. You can do 2, you can do 3, you can do high. But you need to be on a strike zone if you're trying to seriously hit better. MV play, I like high. It just gives you a better idea of where the ball's hit and if a fielder is going to get to it. So it basically helps your base running. But hitting wise, it's not going to do anything for you. I know it's a hitting video, but you want to pitch from the same camera you hit from. It just doubles your reps. You see twice as many pitches and just gives you a better idea of the pitches that are coming in respectively. And then, yeah, so I guess we're on to equipment now. I am on a monitor that supports 120 hertz. I feel like everybody should be if you want to take the game more seriously now. You don't have to be, and you may have to turn your resolution down. If you have a very nice monitor, they can do 1440 at 120. But if you are looking at a monitor, that's the number one thing you're looking for, is the ability to do 120 hertz. So that's kind of a big thing. Controller wise, I use a Power A Fusion 3, I think it's called. Has interchangeable sticks so where you can change the height and stuff. And then occasionally I do use a Control Freak, more so in high difficulties. I went on a 60 game win streak with a default Xbox controller and no Control Freak on Legend 2 years ago. So you don't have to be on it. But it's certainly going to help, especially on those higher difficulties where you just have to think faster. Your PCI has to move faster. And I'm not a big precision ring guy, so don't even ask me about the precision rings. Don't like them. Not for me. So let's go ahead and get into it. We have Trey Turner here against former cover athlete Shohei Ohtani. And in general, what is a better spot to start than just our approach? So in general, what I'm looking for is the pitch I think you're going to throw, the pitch you're likely to throw, and then anything down the middle. If you throw it down the middle, I'm looking to punish that pitch more times than not. You want to have a little bit of a routine at the plate. It doesn't have to be this like absurd Gary Sheffield type thing that I do, where we're like all over the place. For the most part, I just want to make sure I can get to a corner. If you're righty, this top corner is going to be the most exploited one. It's going to be the hardest one to get to. You're having to move your stick up and in, which is kind of an unnatural way to move it, or at least a slower way to move it. So I like to try and make sure that I can get to that. But maybe if it's a lefty, I'll put it over here and try to like pick up on the release point, because that is one of the main things you should be looking at is the ball coming out of the pitcher's hand. Certain pitchers have janky releases. Certain ones have pretty normal ones. I think Shohei's pretty janky. So we can go Glasnow. Glasnow should be straight BP. We're looking at a 4-seam, a 2-seam, a 12-6, and a slider. So pretty like default pitch mix. And it's not going to set the world on fire by any means. So should be a little easier to practice off of. Shohei is at least, you know, a competent pitcher. He's a much better pitcher than Glasnow. So that is our general approach at the plate. A lot goes into that, like timing windows, which we'll get into real quick here. If a pitch is inside, you gotta swing earlier. If it's down the middle, that's like your default timing. And if it's outside, then you have to swing a little bit later than you would ordinarily. And then there is a little bit that goes into that. Like different hitters will have different hitter tendencies. You can't see it in practice mode, but if you pause in Diamond Dynasty or any other mode, it will tell you. Like I think Trey Turner's like a normal pull hitter. Mike Trout's extreme pull, I know that. I think Aaron Judge is extreme pull. And basically all that does is your inside timing windows get bigger, which is a nice plus, but your outside timing windows get slightly smaller. So it gets harder to hit outside pitches with them and easier to hit inside pitches, at least in theory. The main thing that goes into that is the player swing, which maybe I'll get into a little bit towards the end of the video, but I don't want to mess with too much because it messes a lot of people up. So next thing I want to talk about is common mistakes I see. In general, the biggest mistake I see at low ranks is people will get in 2-0, 3-0 counts and just take pitches down the middle. You don't ever want to take a pitch down the middle. Just the way the game plays, home runs they happen a lot more than they do in real life because it's a lot easier to be maybe not perfect on the ball, but it's at least a lot easier to put a good swing on the ball in the game. So if you're in a 3-0 count and your opponent's just gonna get me over 4-seam right down the middle, you're teeing off on that every single day of the week, in my opinion. Another mistake I see at low ranks is swinging at strikes no matter what. If you think it's a strike, you need to swing at it. Not necessarily true. Until you're in a 2-strike count, you don't have to swing at a strike. You want to hit mistake pitches. You want to hit hitters pitches. They're like right down the middle that give you a bigger timing window like that. Or just kind of the pitch that you're waiting for, that you're expecting your opponent to throw. Those are really the pitches that you want to be prioritizing trying to hit. If you're swinging at that pitch, most at bats, you're going to ground out to first, you're going to ground out to third, and your opponent is going to have thrown you 40 pitches through 8 innings. And it's just not going to be a recipe for success. So you got to be patient a little bit. You got to work it. Plate discipline is just something that will come with reps and time. That's why I told you guys to pitch from the same camera that you hit from. You're basically getting extra reps, seeing what pitches look like coming in, which helps. Which kind of brings me to my next thing is you can actually see the spin on the balls. It's a lot easier if you're on like a higher resolution with a higher frame rate. You can tell the rotation of the ball more. It's not all sunshine and rainbows. Like certain pitches do look like other pitches. Like a fork ball is going to look like a 4-seam. A splitter will look like a 4-seam. A cutter, for the most part, will look like a 4-seam. And sliders do a little bit, but the break on them kind of gives them away. Circle changes look a lot like sinkers. Normal changeups look a lot like 4-seams until they're not. And that's just kind of the reason why curveballs are always trash in MLB The Show, because you can just tell exactly what they are as soon as they come out of the hand. And if you hang it, it gets like that imaginary multiplier where the ball just gets hit way harder. So it's just never really a good pitch to be throwing. Which kind of brings me to my next point. Threat levels. You got to be thinking about, what your opponent wants to throw and what their pitcher's best pitch is. Like Glasnow is just straight BP. He basically throws 2 of the same fastball because 2-seams aren't good in the show. 12-6, which is like an automatic home run if he throws it, and then a slider. So he's really just absolutely terrible, to be honest with you. But he basically turns into a 2-pitch pitcher. He's either throwing you a fastball or a slider, is a good way to think about it, more times than not. And he's just never going to be successful with that. But if this was like Paul Skeens, right? Obviously, with Paul Skeens, The best pitch is going to be the outlier four seam for sure. He's going to be throwing at 102, 103 occasionally. You have to hit that pitch. You cannot just let the pitcher sit up here and throw his best pitch to you every single time. You're just not going to be successful. If you're not taking away their best pitch, or at least making them guess twice about throwing it to you, you're going to get absolutely slammed online. So, in general, you should always be looking to hit a fastball. But if that's your opponent's best pitch, you should really be looking to punish them when they throw it, and just kind of take that pitch out of their arsenal, or at least like make them turn it to like a tertiary pitch so that they can't just throw every single time. If you're sitting here letting your opponent spam outlier fastballs and you're just late, very late over and over again, or if you are like on a TV or something, or just like don't have the reaction time like that and you have to swing as soon as it comes out of their hand, then you're really at their mercy. So you kind of have to take away that first pitch, and you have to kind of have threat levels like with Glass now, right? I'd say four seam's probably his best pitch. Second best pitch is that slider, that really fast slider. Like if I had a lefty right now, I'd have to really think about not getting jammed on that slide. I mean, we can run that. Like let's say I got Bryce Harper up here. Really now the threat levels change a little bit. The slider is the scariest thing, because if he throws that inside at 92 miles an hour, that's going to jam me. You're not going to get a good swing on it. In general, you want to be on the earlier side of good if possible. Obviously, you'd like to hit everything perfect, but it's just not realistic. So you want to be on the earlier side of good. You can see how I don't even know, that's just late. We're still in the green. So it should have been later side of good. You want to be earlier, because in general, you're going to pull the ball for more power than you're going to push it. You can see there, we just absolutely nuked that. It's very rare that you're actually going to be late on a ball and still hit it out. Usually that's because the pitch is hung, or the pitcher's out of confidence or energy, something like that. So in general, you want to be earlier. You want to pull the ball more. This year isn't off to the greatest start with the exit velos, where if you are earlier side of good, a lot of times you are just gonna like pull off the ball and not hit it hard at all. You pretty much have to hit perfects to guarantee yourself decent exit velocities this year. I think they'll probably touch that, but in general, you want to be earlier side. It's typically a good habit to have. It's also how you're going to get those home runs where you're not even touching the ball. With the PCI, you're going to pretty much have to just swing early, and you'll be under it, but you'll have so much power that you'll hook the ball out. So that's good. I think it's a decent demonstration of threat levels. Like Glasnow just sucks. Like we can run like I guess Shohei versus Trey. So with Shohei here, if I was like evaluating threat levels, I think the sinker and the four seam would basically be the same, and they're also going to be used the same. They're going to be thrown usually like middle up and in. Like you're not really gonna throw them like low and in. You'll throw them like middle up. And so they'll jam a lot of right-handed hitters. A lot of guys that don't have such a good swing like Trey does, that'll be the scariest. And then I think tied for like second, third, however you want to look at it, is the splitter and the cutter. Because they're both going to look like the four seam, and they're both going to be slow and drop a little bit. And they're going to induce ground balls and early weak contacts. And then by far his worst pitch is going to be the sweeper. So we're almost not even concerned about it. Although once you get to a certain difficulty online, it is going to shrink your PCI, so you do have to worry about it. But in general, that's kind of how I would like evaluate Shohei, just off threat levels, with a righty anyway. When you go to a lefty, it's like completely different. Like let's go back to Harper or like Schwarber or somebody. Now it changes a little bit. Now I think the sinker is by far the most prevalent pitch for him to throw. He's going to work it inside to steal strikes. He's going to work it outside for just like a safety strike. And now we're not nearly worried. Like the sweeper is like not even something we're worried about, because if he's throwing it, it's a home run. Now we have a lefty up, he'll hook it, he'll be fine. So I think it's probably sinker, four seam, cutter, splitter, and then the sweeper would probably be how I would evaluate it, because now he can work the cutter in on the hands. It might jam you if you're a little late, or it might just be a free strike if you're super early on it. So you kind of have to worry about that. And just a little bit of like the high level gameplay that goes into it. You got to evaluate like what a pitcher's best pitch is going to be, where they're going to want to throw it, stuff like that. Down on away sinker, you're going to see a lot of that if you're lefty via righty. Just kind of a safety pitch to try to get a strike. not like there's a ton of strategy against CPU. They just kind of pick a random spot with a random pitch every time and let it fly. So there's not a ton of strategy that goes into playing the CPU, but we're doing our best. So, like I said, sweeper, right? Sweeper against a lefty, guaranteed home run. Against a righty, yeah, best case, you're probably riding that for like a double off the wall, maybe. The threat levels kind of change based on what handedness of hitter you have. And then the last thing I want to talk about is kind of swings. We can go over swings real quick. If you are not somebody that wants to use leg kicks, or if you don't want cheat codes, I would turn the video off now. But on the serious note, it does mess with some people. I'm gonna try my best to explain this. I'll probably do a more directed video on it in the future. But I'm gonna go over leg kicks and swings real quick. Some people, it just breaks their brain and it makes them hit worse. I don't know how, but somehow it does. Whereas me, it's kind of my go-to. It lets me kind of turn my brain off while I play. I don't have to actively think as much until I get on higher difficulties. Because it is almost like a cheat code in a way. So basically, how you break down leg kicks, you have to have a good swing, which is the essential part. So not everybody can necessarily do it the same. But with Trey Turner, you see he has a nice early high leg kick, which is kind of the key here. And then when that leg kick kind of hits its apex, that's the earliest you need to be thinking about swinging. Not that you have to swing, not that it's necessarily giving you the exact timing for a curveball or something, but it'll give you his fastball. That's the earliest you have to think about swinging at the fastball, and then adjusting off of it is kind of up to you at that point. A lot of people will sit here and be like, are you staring at his leg, stuff like that. No, obviously not. I'm trying to hit a baseball. Why would I be looking at his leg? It's just kind of something you see in your peripheral. Another reason to be on a monitor instead of a TV. And like I said, it's not a cheat code, but you see we have perfect timing there, just off kind of his leg kick. And then, like I said, it changes based on timing windows. We went over timing windows already. That changes it a good amount. If he's still on the inside, the leg kick might be a little late. If he's still on the outside, you'll probably be early and roll over. So it's not a cheat code. You still have to play the game. You still have to evaluate where the pitch is going, what pitch it is, how fast it is, stuff like that. But it does just kind of let you settle in and give you a more obvious timing window. It's going to eliminate those swings in your game where you were too early or too late to touch the ball, which is something I see a ton at low ranks. It's something that when people hit that all-star to Hall of Fame transition, that Hall of Fame to legend transition, you start to see a lot of the swings. People start to strike out. They don't foul the balls at all, stuff like that. And a lot of times that's just because they don't use leg kicks to help time themselves. They're just kind of up there swinging whenever they think they need to swing. And there is still an element of that, even if you are using leg kicks. You still kind of have to have that predetermined internal clock that helps you decide when to swing. But it's a lot easier to kind of find that window. You know when you need to be swinging more with leg kicks. Hopefully I explained it well, and you can go try to drill it with Trey Turner, or Will Smith has a nice one. Mike Trout's, I think, is a little worse in recent history, but it's still overall a good one. So if you want to go try leg kicks, you can try it yourself. I am warning you, some people it just breaks their brain. I don't know why. But hopefully you guys enjoyed. Hopefully it helps make you a better hitter. Hopefully I explained some concepts to some of you that may be newer or something like that to help you. Until next time, peace.